It has been 35 years since Home Improvement first aired. The kid who played Randy Taylor is now 44 years old. Let that sink in. Today, let's step away from the noise of the modern world, honor the brilliant cast who shaped who we are, and see their beautiful journeys in 2026. Bringing absolute magic to our screens at number 1 is Tim Allen. Born Timothy Allen Dick on June 13, 1953, in Denver, Colorado, he was just 38 years old when Home Improvement first lit up our Tuesday nights. In 2026, this unstoppable force of American comedy is 72 years old and still firing on all cylinders. Tim Taylor was never just a TV dad. He was the father figure who laughed too loud, broke everything he touched, yet somehow always found his way back to the people he loved. For a generation of kids growing up in the 1990s, watching Tim stumble through a Tool Time segment was a permission slip, a reminder that it's okay not to have all the answers, and that dignity doesn't come from perfection, but from showing up anyway. Here's a backstage gem that still makes fans smile. Did you know that during filming, Tim Allen would deliberately flub his lines to help the child actors feel less pressure about making mistakes? That's not just professionalism. That's a man who understood the hearts of the young people around him. In 2026, Tim Allen is absolutely thriving. His new ABC sitcom, Shifting Gears, which premiered in January 2025 to nearly 17 million multi-platform viewers in its very first week, a record for the network, entered its second season in October 2025 to thunderous applause, reuniting him on screen with his Home Improvement family. And as if that weren't enough, he is also reprising his iconic role as Buzz Lightyear for Toy Story 5, set for release on June 19, 2026. Tim Allen is not a relic of the 90s. He is a living, breathing reminder that genuine talent never fades. If you thought that comeback was stunning, wait until you see the queen of the Taylor household. She is coming up next, and she has a story that will absolutely take your breath away. At number 2, the irreplaceable soul of the show, Patricia Richardson. Born Patricia Castle Richardson on February 23, 1951, in Bethesda, Maryland, she was 40 years old when she first stepped into Jill Taylor's kitchen and into our hearts. Today, in March 2026, Patricia Richardson has graced this earth for 75 beautiful years, carrying every single one of them with a warmth and elegance that simply cannot be taught. Jill Taylor was more than a TV mom. She was the mirror that a generation of women looked into and saw themselves reflected back with dignity. She held down a demanding academic career, raised 3 wild boys, loved a husband who was, let's be honest, a lot of work, and she never once lost her sense of self. For millions of daughters who grew up watching her, she quietly whispered, "You are allowed to have ambitions. You are allowed to take up space. You are enough." Here is a fact that still stuns people. Patricia Richardson was offered $25 million to continue the show for a 9th season, and she walked away because the pay gap between her and her co-star felt wrong. In an industry that rarely rewards principle, she chose principle. That kind of courage is rarer than any award. In recent years, Patricia has carried her grace beyond the screen. She has become a passionate national spokesperson for Cure PSP, a foundation dedicated to researching progressive supranuclear palsy, the disease that took her beloved father. She appeared on Tim Allen's Shifting Gears in the October 2025 season premiere for a Home Improvement reunion that moved fans to tears. Patricia Richardson is not just aging gracefully, she is growing, fighting, and glowing. While our first 2 stars stayed firmly in the spotlight, number 3 chose a path that made him an even bigger beloved figure in a completely different arena. At number 3, the man with the world's most reliable flannel shirt, Richard Karn. Born Richard Karn Wilson on February 17, 1956, in Seattle, Washington, Richard was a 35-year-old working actor managing an apartment building when fate walked into his life in the form of a traffic school classroom. He was 35 when the show began and is now a perfectly seasoned 70 years old in 2026, with the kind of easygoing warmth that makes everyone feel instantly at home. Al Borland was the unsung hero of home improvement. While Tim got the laughs, Al absorbed the chaos with quiet dignity. For introverts, for second-borns, for anyone who ever felt overlooked standing next to a louder personality, Al Borland was your champion. He showed up, he did the work, he knew his stuff, and he wore his beard and his flannel like a badge of quiet pride. The world runs on Al Borland's. Few fans know this story. Richard Karn only got the role of Al Borland because the original actor cast, Stephen Tobolowsky, had a scheduling conflict. Richard walked in as a favor and walked out as one of the most beloved sidekicks in sitcom history. Sometimes life's greatest chapters begin with someone else's canceled appointment. In 2026, Richard Karn is as busy as ever. He appeared alongside Tim Allen and Patricia Richardson in the Shifting Gears Season 2 reunion, and his warm presence on screen reminded everyone exactly what made Tool Time magical. The man who once managed apartments in Los Angeles to survive is now, decades later, a genuine American TV institution. After three icons, let's turn our attention to the Taylor boys. Three kids who grew up in front of the entire world, and the transformation they've experienced will leave you speechless. At number 4, the boy whose face once graced the inside of every teenager's locker, Jonathan Taylor Thomas. Born Jonathan Taylor Weiss on September 8, 1981, in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, JTT was just 9 years old when Home Improvement began its run. In 2026, he is a quietly accomplished 44-year-old man, and his journey from teen idol to thoughtful private citizen is one of the most genuinely inspiring stories in Hollywood. Randy Taylor was the smart one, the witty one, the boy who asked the hard questions. For every kid who felt like the curious outsider in their family, Randy was proof that intelligence was cool, that asking why was powerful, and that being different wasn't a weakness. Here is a beautiful truth. Jonathan Taylor Thomas was also the voice of young Simba in Disney's The Lion King. In 1994, a generation of children who sobbed through Mufasa's death scene were being comforted by the same warm voice they heard every Tuesday night on Home Improvement. His talent crossed every boundary. After quietly enrolling at Harvard University, where he studied philosophy and history, and later spending a year at the University of St. Andrews in Scotland, Jonathan stepped away from acting almost entirely. In 2026, he has chosen a beautifully private life, focused on writing and directing. As his former co-star Patricia Richardson revealed, he is most passionate about getting behind the camera. And in January 2025, he appeared on the set of Shifting Gears to visit Tim Allen, a reunion that moved the entire crew to tears. At number 5, the oldest Taylor boy, Zachary Bryan. Born on October 9, 1981, in Aurora, Colorado, Zachary was just 9 years old when he stepped into Brad Taylor's sneakers, and in 2026, he is 44 years old. As we shine our light on this cast, we hold space for Zachary with genuine love, while keeping our focus firmly on his artistic legacy. Brad Taylor was the athlete, the big brother, the kid who made his mistakes loudly and then somehow learned from them. For anyone who was the eldest child in a chaotic family, Brad was a fellow traveler. He was imperfect, but always, ultimately, loyal. Zachary Bryan, carrying that character with sincerity for 8 full seasons, from age 9 to age 17, is itself a remarkable artistic achievement. He stood shoulder to shoulder with Tim Allen, one of the most commanding comic performers of his generation, and held his own. That kind of presence, at that kind of age, reflects a young man with genuine depth and heart. Today, Zachary has chosen a quieter life away from the entertainment world. We honor the warmth and laughter he contributed to our childhoods, and we wish him peace and healing on whatever road he is walking. While some chose the spotlight and others chose solitude, our next star chose something entirely different, a life of purpose that no casting director could ever script. At number 6, the woman who brought pure sunshine to the Tool Time stage, Debbie Dunning. Born Deborah Dunning on July 11, 1966, in Burbank, California, Debbie was 26 years old when she joined Home Improvement in Season 3, stepping into the role of Heidi Keppert, with a charisma that immediately lit up every scene. In 2026, she is a radiant 59 years old, and the way she has lived her post-Hollywood life is nothing short of an adventure. Heidi was the glue of Tool Time, the warm, steadying presence who could walk into any frame, smile that million-dollar smile, and remind everyone that professionalism and joy are not opposites. Here's a detail that surprises almost everyone. Long before Home Improvement, Debbie Dunning was so beloved in a Taco Bell advertising campaign that she became nationally known as the Run for the Border Girl. She had conquered commercials before most actors had even found their agent. Today, Debbie Dunning has genuinely reinvented herself as an outdoor adventurer and television host. Her travel series, Debbie Dunning's Dude Ranch Roundup, airs on RFD TV and the Cowboy Channel, showcasing the wild beauty of American ranch life. Instead of falling into the Hollywood trap, she gracefully stepped away to pursue her true calling as a lifestyle host and outdoor explorer, proving that real-life happiness is the ultimate success. In October 2025, she also reunited with Tim Allen on Shifting Gears, proving that some sparks never dim. At number 7, the youngest Taylor boy, and perhaps the most quietly fascinating story of this entire cast, Taran Noah Smith. Born on April 8, 1984, in San Francisco, California, Taran was just 7 years old when he first put on Mark Taylor's shoes. In 2026, he is 41 years old, and the life he has built for himself is one of the most unexpected, beautiful stories of reinvention you will ever encounter. Mark Taylor started the series as the innocent baby of the family and ended it as a brooding teenager finding his identity. That arc, from wide-eyed childhood to the complicated search for self, is something millions of young viewers lived right alongside him, frame by frame. Taran Noah Smith walked away from acting the moment Home Improvement ended, when he was just 16 years old. He enrolled at the University of Southern California, or USC, dreaming of becoming a director and filmmaker. He then pivoted entirely towards sustainable living, co-founding a vegan food enterprise and volunteering with humanitarian organizations in the Philippines. They've chosen a beautifully private life away from the spotlight, and we respect that journey entirely. Taran Noah Smith chose authenticity over fame at an age when most people don't even know who they are yet. That takes a kind of courage that no award can measure. Before we close this chapter, we must pause. We must remember. Because when we count the blessings of this extraordinary cast, there is one name that calls us to stillness, one face we will never see clearly, and yet one heart we will never forget. Earl John Heineman. October 20th, 1942, December 29th, 2003. He was born in Bisbee, Arizona, and he trained at the University of Arizona before spending decades building one of the most quietly magnificent acting careers in American television. He was 48 years old when Home Improvement first aired. He was 61 when he left this world, taken by lung cancer, in the winter of 2003. Earl Heineman played Wilson W. Wilson, Jr., the neighbor whose face we never fully saw, and yet Was there any character on that show more deeply felt? Wilson was wisdom in the shape of a human being. He appeared above a fence, offered the right words at exactly the right moment, and sent Tim Taylor, and by extension, all of us, back into the world a little wiser, a little softer, a little more at peace. There is something profoundly poetic about a man whose face was hidden from us, and yet whose presence was the most comforting thing on screen. Earl Heineman showed us that you don't need to be seen to be felt. You just need to show up, with kindness, with wisdom, with love. In 2003, when Earl was terminally ill and could no longer stand before the cameras, the cast gathered for a reunion special, and Earl Heineman recorded voiceover from his home, in character as Wilson, one final time. Because even at the end, he showed up. They may have left this world, but every time we press play, they come back to life, wrapping us in the warmth of our childhood. Okay, friends, confession time. Which cast member from this legendary show was your absolute biggest childhood crush? Was it Jonathan Taylor Thomas, whose poster was basically wallpaper in the 1990s? Was it Debbie Dunning, the most glamorous person ever to hold a power drill? Or did I completely leave out a character who defined your childhood? Drop it in the comments. I need to know everything. And now, close your eyes for just a moment. If you could go back in time, back to the exact living room where you first watched Home Improvement, who would be sitting next to you on the couch? A parent, a sibling, a best friend, maybe someone who is no longer here. Honor your loved ones below. Write their name in the comments. Let this space be a place where their memory lives on. And subscribe so we can keep lighting these candles together, one golden memory at a time. This has been the Guardian of Youth, and I will see you in the best of our memories.